What if the quiet you've been craving after 65 isn't a sign that something is wrong with you, but proof that your brain is finally working exactly as it should? Most people over 65 are told, directly or indirectly, that wanting to be alone is dangerous, that it means loneliness, depression, decline. But here's the mystery that almost no one talks about. A growing number of older adults who intentionally prefer solitude are mentally sharper, emotionally steadier, and more resilient than their constantly social peers. So, why does this preference still scare people, and what crucial truth is being left out? The early clues have been there for years. Researchers noticed that some seniors with smaller social circles scored higher on emotional regulation tests. Doctors observed patients who lived alone yet recovered faster from stress. Large American surveys showed a split pattern that didn't fit the usual story of more social equals healthier. Something didn't add up, but instead of questioning the narrative, most advice doubled down on it. Stay busy, stay social, never be alone too much. And yet, the data kept whispering a different story. To understand why preferring solitude after 65 can actually signal wisdom, we need to follow the cause and effect trail back to the beginning long before retirement. The origins of this pattern start in early adulthood. In your 20s and 30s, the brain is wired for expansion, novelty, social bonding, career building. Psychologists like Erik Erikson describe this stage as focused on intimacy and productivity. Social density is rewarded. The more connections, the better. People who preferred time alone at that age were often labeled shy, introverted, or even maladjusted. But long-term cohort studies later revealed something important. Those individuals were also more likely to develop strong internal coping skills. They learned early how to self-regulate without external validation. Cause planted, effect delayed, then come the changes that start quietly in the 40s. This is where biology begins to shift priorities. Research from Stanford and the University of Michigan shows that midlife adults experience a gradual narrowing of emotional focus. The brain becomes less interested in novelty for novelty's sake and more interested in meaning. This is known as socio-emotional selectivity theory, developed by psychologist Laura Carstensen. Social time becomes more selective. Energy becomes more precious. Yet culturally, people are still told to expand, network, attend, engage. The tension grows, but it's mostly invisible. Now the shift after 70 that most people ignore. According to data from the Health and Retirement Study, adults over 70 report fewer social interactions, but higher satisfaction with those interactions. This is the turning point. The nervous system becomes less tolerant of unnecessary stimulation. Loud environments feel draining. Superficial conversations feel exhausting. Solitude starts to feel restorative, not isolating. But here's the twist. Society interprets this shift as withdrawal instead of optimization. The wisdom signal gets misread as a warning sign. The breaking point often comes after a visible life event, retirement, the loss of a spouse. A move. Suddenly, time alone increases, friends and family worrying. Doctors ask screening questions about isolation, but large-scale studies from the National Institute on Aging show that intentional solitude chosen, not imposed, has a completely different health profile than loneliness. Cortisol levels are lower, sleep quality improves, decision-making becomes calmer. The problem isn't being alone. It's being alone against your will. That distinction changes everything. Then comes the fallout, not from solitude itself, but from misunderstanding it. Seniors who prefer being alone are often pressured to join activities they don't enjoy. They spend money on clubs, trips, and events that drain them. They feel guilty for saying no. Financially, socially, emotionally, the cost adds up. Ironically, forced socialization can increase stress and reduce well-being, according to multiple U.S. mental health surveys. The lifestyle becomes misaligned with the brain's current operating system. So, what do many seniors try next? The failed fixes. They override their instincts, They say yes when they mean no. They stay busy to avoid judgment. Some even take medication for low mood when the real issue is overstimulation. Studies published in the American Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry show that mislabeling normal age-related preference shifts can lead to unnecessary interventions. Old advice doesn't just fail, it can backfire. Now we circle back to the missing truth. Preferring solitude after 65 often reflects advanced emotional processing. The brain has learned what matters and what doesn't. It filters noise. It conserves energy. It prioritizes depth over breadth. This isn't decline, it's refinement. Look at the data today. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, nearly 28% of adults over 65 live alone, and that number is rising, yet not all of them report loneliness. In fact, a significant portion report high life satisfaction. Patterns repeat across millions of seniors. Those who choose solitude intentionally often engage more deeply in reading, reflection, creative work, and purposeful routines. Their stress reactivity is lower. Their sense of identity is stronger. Wisdom isn't loud, it's selective. So, what can you do with this information if you're over 60 right now? First, direct action. Reframe your alone time. Instead of asking, "Is this unhealthy?" ask, "Is this restoring me?" The evidence shows that restoration, not constant interaction, predicts long-term mental health in older adults. Second, direct action. Protect your energy deliberately. Choose social interactions that align with your values, not your obligations. Quality over quantity isn't a cliché, it's a biological strategy supported by decades of aging research. Third, direct action. Build a rhythm, not a schedule. Solitude works best when paired with meaningful touch points, one or two people, one or two activities that matter. This balance is where wisdom turns into well-being. Here's the clear warning, backed by evidence. Forced isolation is harmful. If solitude comes from fear, grief, or lack of access, it needs attention. The difference between wisdom and risk is choice. Never ignore that line. And here's the open thought I want you to carry into the next video. What if many of the traits we call aging problems are actually signs that the brain is upgrading its priorities? If this gave you clarity, take a second to like this video and share it with someone who feels misunderstood for wanting more quiet. And if you want the next chapter where we explore how solitude affects memory, intuition, and decision-making after 70, subscribe now. We're just getting started.